Karen Flowers waddled into Maple Grove's community center like a peacock in a polyester pantsuit. Her chin tilted so high it was a miracle she didn't trip over her own ego. By the end of the night, her crusade to ban Crocs from the neighborhood would become the town's favorite punchline. It started innocently enough. Maple Grove was a quiet suburb, the kind where kids rode bikes until dusk and neighbors waved over picket fences. But Karen, who'd moved in 6 months prior, had other plans. At 350 pounds, with a wardrobe that screamed, "I spent too much at the outlet mall," she carried herself like the self-appointed queen of aesthetics. Her sneers at untidy lawns or tacky porch decor were legendary, but her latest obsession was Crocs, those rubbery, hole-punched clogs that half the neighborhood wore to mow lawns or grab the mail. To Karen, they were a personal affront, a blight on her vision of a classy Maple Grove. "They're footwear for peasants," she'd scoff, loud enough for everyone at the grocery store to hear. The trouble began at the monthly HOA meeting. Karen stormed in, clutching a petition with 12 signatures, half of them her own, scribbled in different pens. "These plastic abominations are lowering property values," she declared, slamming her fist on the folding table. The room fell silent, except for the squeak of Tom Miller's Crocs as he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Tom, a lanky landscaper with a heart bigger than his paycheck, was the unofficial Crocs ambassador of Maple Grove. He wore them everywhere: work, church, even his cousin's wedding. "Karen," he said, voice steady but amused, "they're just shoes. Live and let live." Karen's face turned the color of her flamingo pink blazer. "Live and let live," she mocked. "This is about standards, Thomas. You and your swamp feet are dragging us into the gutter." The room erupted in murmurs. Sarah Chun, a nurse who wore Crocs during 12-hour shifts, stood up. "Karen, nobody's forcing you to wear them. Why do you care so much?" Karen's eyes narrowed. "Because I'm saving this neighborhood from looking like a trailer park." That was the spark. By the next week, Karen had escalated her war. She posted flyers on every mailbox, titled "Ban Crocs for a Better Maple Grove," claiming the shoes were a public health hazard and visual pollution. She cornered neighbors at the park, lecturing them on fashion discrimination against her refined tastes. She even reported Tom to the HOA for violating community standards by wearing neon green Crocs while gardening. The HOA, led by a tired retiree named Linda, dismissed her complaints, but Karen wouldn't quit. "I'll take this to court," she shouted at the next meeting, ignoring the eye rolls. Tom and Sarah, fed up, decided to fight back, not with petitions, but with proof. They organized a Crocs Pride Day, encouraging everyone to wear their clogs to the community picnic. The turnout was glorious. 80 residents, from kids to grandmas, strutted in every color of Crocs imaginable. Even Linda, the HOA president, showed up in black Crocs with a bedazzled strap. Karen arrived, expecting to rally support, but froze when she saw the sea of rubber footwear. "This is a disgrace," she shrieked, snapping photos for her evidence. The crowd just laughed, chanting, "Crocs rock! Crocs rock!" Humiliated but undeterred, Karen made good on her threat. She filed a lawsuit against the HOA claiming their refusal to ban Crocs constituted negligent oversight and discrimination against her right to a visually pleasing environment. The filing fee cost her $400, but she was convinced the judge would see her side. She spent weeks preparing, printing glossy photos of Crocs-clad neighbors, and drafting a 20-page manifesto on why rubber clogs were the downfall of civilization. She even hired a lawyer, a slick guy named Greg, who clearly took the case for the paycheck. The court date arrived, and Maple Grove buzzed with gossip. The small courtroom was packed, with Tom, Sarah, and a dozen neighbors squeezed into the benches. Karen strode in, her heels clicking like a villain in a bad movie. She wore a leopard print dress that strained at the seams, her face smug as she handed her evidence to the judge. "Your Honor," she began, voice dripping with self-righteousness, "these people are ruining our community with their cheap, ugly shoes. I'm protecting property values and dignity." The judge, a no-nonsense woman with wire-rimmed glasses, flipped through Karen's photos with a bemused expression. "Ms. Flowers," she said, "you're claiming the HOA is liable for footwear choices?" Karen nodded vigorously. "Yes, Your Honor. It's discrimination against my aesthetic standards." The room stifled giggles. Greg, her lawyer, looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Tom took the stand next, his Crocs squeaking faintly. "Your Honor, I wear these because they're comfortable and practical. I'm a landscaper. I'm on my feet all day. Karen's been harassing folks, calling us trashy, reporting us for nothing. We just want to live in peace." Sarah followed, explaining how Crocs helped her survive long shifts at the hospital. "They're not fashion statements," she said. "They're tools for people who work hard." The judge leaned forward, peering at Karen. "Miss Flowers, do you have evidence that these shoes directly harm property values or public health?" Karen stammered, pointing to her petition. "It's obvious. They're hideous." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Obvious to you, perhaps, but you've provided no data, no expert testimony, just your opinion." The room burst into laughter, and Karen's face went from pink to purple. Greg tried to salvage the case, arguing that Karen's emotional distress from seeing Crocs warranted action. The judge cut him off. "Emotional distress? From shoes? Counselor, this is a courtroom, not a therapy session." She turned to Karen. "Ms. Flowers, you've wasted this court's time with a frivolous lawsuit. The HOA has no obligation to enforce your personal tastes." Case dismissed. The gavel slammed, and the crowd cheered. Karen stood frozen, her manifesto crumbling in her hands. Outside, on the courthouse steps, Tom and Sarah confronted her. "Karen," Tom said, "you could have just let people be. Now you're the joke." Sarah added, "Maybe try caring about something that actually matters." Karen, for once, had no retort. She shoved her papers into her bag and stormed off, her heels wobbling under her weight. The aftermath was swift. The story spread like wildfire, with Crocs Karen becoming a local legend. The neighborhood threw a second Crocs Pride Day, this time with a banner reading, "Maple Grove loves Crocs." Karen's house went up for sale a month later, but not before someone taped a pair of hot pink Crocs to her mailbox. She moved away, leaving behind a legacy of laughter and a lesson in humility. Maple Grove returned to its quiet rhythm, but the story of Karen's downfall lived on. It wasn't just about shoes, it was about community, acceptance, and the absurdity of trying to control others' choices. Tom still wears his neon green Crocs, Sarah her hospital blues, and the neighborhood? They're all a little prouder to be themselves, clogs and all. The end.